I wanted to make a video about something that's been really bugging me for a while, probably since I had the borderline diagnosis, because it suddenly made sense about all of my relationships. And, you know, I'd been told that my illness was the reason that these relationships had ended. And I think, or, you know, that my illness was to blame. And, you know, like it kind of was in a way, but not in the way people told me that it was. My illness was the reason I was attracted to the wrong people, you know, because who I'm attracted to when I'm manic is completely different to who I need when I'm down. And the people I attract when I'm manic are not people that can handle me through my depression. So trying to find someone who loves you all year round when you're not the same person all year round is incredibly difficult. You know, it's not necessarily a fault on theirs, but, you know, it does mean that they're just not right for you, and that they're not really people that you kind of want to be around anyway, because, you know, you want people to support you and love you unconditionally. And, you know, I was attracted to people exactly like my father, who were just incapable of loving me unconditionally. And my illness was definitely to blame for getting into these shitty relationships, and it definitely was to blame for me staying in these shitty relationships. You know, my lack of self-worth, this feeling of not being good enough, and, you know, this fear of rejection and this intense fear of being alone was exactly why I stayed in situations that I knew were wrong. I stayed with people who were horrible, who were absolutely punishing, who I didn't even like, but I stayed with them anyway because I just couldn't leave. I just couldn't let go. And, you know, that was where the borderline came in. But it wasn't to blame in the way that these people had manipulated me and made me feel like it was to blame. You know, they were saying, well, you're unlovable because of who you are. So how do you expect us to love you? How do you expect us to treat you right? And that's incredibly destructive. And I guess where I'm at now is my past two relationships were just absolutely horrendous. They tore me down to the point where I was progressively getting worse in my mental state because of the things that they were doing to me, because they were literally stabbing in a knife where I already had an open wound, and they were just twisting it and twisting it, and they didn't give a shit. You know, it doesn't matter really. I have this friend that comes and chats to me at work, and we were talking about this exact topic, and I said to him, I said, like, here's a pen. I said, this pen means a lot to me, and if you were like my partner and you cared about me, and I told you that this pen meant the world to me, so could you hold on to it and keep it safe for me? Like, would you do it? And he was like, well, yeah, like, if it meant a lot to you, I would do it, regardless of whether you think it's just a stupid pen and, you know, could be thrown out. So, you know, my doctors kind of had the same opinion to me. They were like, yes, Jess, there's, like, you know, you've got a lot of issues, and there's a lot that happens in the relationship, and, you know, your borderline was to blame. You are more sensitive, you know, and that is because of the child abuse and the psychological abuse and bullying that you have suffered your whole life. But if someone cared about you, they would care enough about not wanting to hurt you, to work with you on ways to, like, prevent it from happening, you know, to not trigger these things that are really hard and hurtful for you. So if someone sits there and goes, that shouldn't hurt, and you're like, but it does hurt. And there were circumstances like, you know, the 100th time my ex was, like, late, you know, and I told him being on time is really important, and he would be like hours late. Like, I was he made me an hour and a half late to my own birthday party. You know, and I would say being on time is really important to me. Like, being there at this time shows that, you know, you care enough about me, because it means a lot to me for you to be there. And every single time he'd just sit there and argue with me, and every time he was late, he was just like, it's not a big deal, get over it, there's something wrong with you because you think it's a big deal, you know. And that same old thing, I've been told that there's something wrong with me my whole life, but I'm just different, you know. Things that maybe affect them don't affect me, but then things that affect me, you know, don't affect them. And I just think, like, I would do anything for someone that I loved. I have done everything, you know, for someone that I love and someone that I care about. And I've always just kind of expected the same in return. But, you know, the time and energy that you give to someone is really a gift, because there's never a guarantee of getting anything in return. And my dad said something to me, the only probably, you know, good thing he said when I was about 17. He said, Jess, if you put half as much energy into yourself as you do the people in your life, imagine how much further you would be. And that's exactly where I'm at right now, and I am proving that to be true. The more energy and effort I put into me, and I'm so happy being single. I think there's two different types of single. There's single and looking, and there's single and just like, stay away from me. Because one, I am, you know, scared of being hurt again, but I also know that, you know, who I want when I'm up and who I need when I'm down are completely different people. So until I can find me again and know what the middle ground is, then I don't really know what I'm looking for. So I'm always going to fall into these situations where I'm with someone who's just completely not right for me. And then because of the borderline, I won't be able to leave. I won't be able to get out of it. And I think like when I'm down, I feel really insecure, like insanely insecure. And I just kind of think that it's a really vulnerable time. And I used to be fearless. I used to not give a shit about being alone because I enjoyed my own company. And I think being ill made me hate myself. It made me hate my own company. It made me, you know, how could I expect someone to love me if I didn't love myself? I didn't expect, you know, I didn't judge people for not wanting to be around me because I didn't even want to be around myself. You know, I would have run away from me too if I could, but you know, I couldn't. And that was kind of the sad, frustrating part, that I was stuck with this life and they had the freedom to leave if they wanted to, and I just couldn't. And, you know, I've kind of, I guess there was only one person in my life that ever, you know, probably the first man to show me that there was another way to love. And it wasn't, you know, he wasn't a copy of my father like all my other boyfriends. You know, he was different, and we didn't spend a lot of time together, but he gave me hope, you know, that I could be appreciated for who I was, that, you know, I could be loved for who I was and not have to apologize for who I was all the time. And regardless of whether or not I will see that person ever again, it doesn't really matter to me, because, you know, they taught me such a valuable lesson. They taught me this, you know, this feeling of acceptance, you know, and acceptance from a man, you know, which for me is like, because of the borderline and because of my daddy issues and, you know, all that sort of shit, it's like, that was, it was incredibly vital, I think. And I sort of just decided after my ex, I was like, I cannot risk getting into another shitty relationship. I need to make sure that I'm in my right mind. Even just when they're telling me, this is your illness, you know, this isn't right, you know, you're doing this, and they're trying to tell me how I should feel and how I should think and what's going on, and I'm second guessing myself all the time. I think the longer I am alone and the more I realize what my normal is outside of their fucking bullshit, which destabilized me like incredibly, I think the next time I get in a relationship and someone tries to pull that shit on me, the longer I've been alone and the more I know about myself and what my normal is, the more confidently I can say, hang on a minute, this isn't my illness. I'm allowed to have emotions. Like, you fucked up, and I'm allowed to be angry. And it's not my illness that's making me angry. It's your mistake. So either fix it or I'm going. And I think that confidence has just been lacking in so many years because I've just let people tear me down. And I think you attract the love that you think you deserve. And I obviously just didn't feel like I deserved to be loved because I've been told my whole life that I couldn't be loved. Not unless I did, you know, X, Y, Z. There was always an ultimatum. There was always conditions put on it. And I've just decided that I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to settle for anything in life. I'm not going to settle for this being the best I'm ever going to get. No, I want a high level of recovery, and I'm not going to stop until I get it. And I finally kind of know, or I'm starting to learn what I'm worth. And it's a lot more than I used to think. So I'm not going to settle for any less than that. I'm not going to let someone, you know, make me feel like a burden to be loved. I'm not going to let someone manipulate me in that way. And I know right now I'm not strong enough to do that. I'm pretty weak and I don't have a lot of energy, so my energy is better invested in myself. I think time and energy is the most valuable commodity on earth, and time and energy invested into someone else is nearly always wasted. But time and energy invested into yourself is always going to be a good investment, you know? Because that energy is just circling around, and it's just what you're putting out, you're getting back, not what I gave out to everyone. They took and they took, and I got absolutely nothing in return. And imagine that from years of that. Emotionally, I had no energy left. I had no energy left to live. And it's not that I wanted to take my own life over a guy, you know, that just seems so fucking stupid, but I had just been broken. Like, I was so broken, and I let them break me, and that's like the really sad, devastating part about it, because I could have prevented it. I wanted to prevent it. I kept saying, I'm going, that's it, I'm fucking sick of this, I'm leaving. And then they would just turn around and go, yeah, well, I don't like you anyway, so on your horse, like, fuck off. And then the borderline would kick in, and I'd be like, no, you can't reject me. Like, no, you have to love me. Like, and, you know, then I would just, like, stay again trying to prove my worth in this, like, vicious cycle. And I just can't guarantee that I won't get stuck in that cycle. I can't guarantee that my illness is not going to negatively influence my decisions that I make, you know, in any aspect of my life. And I just think it's my time to be alone. I was trying to find things in other people, but, you know, it's just like material possessions. You know, people try and find emotions in external things. Like, your emotions are internal. So why do you find love? You know, you don't, people are like, oh, this will make me happy. Well, if you buy something and you go, this will make me happy, it can't get inside you. It can't physically make you happy. And love is the same. You can't find love in another, because, yeah, like, you might find love for them, but it's not going to be love inside you. You know, you have to learn how to love yourself, just as you have to learn how to be happy within yourself. You have to be able to feel these positive emotions in yourself without external influences, because external influences can just suddenly disappear. They come and they go, and it's really, you know, it's hard. It's hard living with a mental illness. And it's not just relationships that it affects every aspect of your life. But for people like me that feel intensely, you know, the intensity of the emotions that I feel are incredible. Like, most people don't even believe that intensity exists, and that goes for every single emotion that I have, you know. So it's like, I love passionately and I hate passionately. It's kind of, it's one or the other. It's like, there's no emotion, or it's intense emotion, and that's just kind of who I am. And I think being told my illness was the reason people couldn't love me, or that it was the reason, you know, things were happening, you know, it just, they're wrong. I want you to know that they're wrong, because my illness was the reason I chose the wrong men. My illness was the reason I stayed with the wrong men. But the reason our relationship wasn't working was because we were wrong for each other, or they were just not nice people. And that wasn't my fault because of my illness. You know, if someone sits there and goes, I can't love you because of your illness, just because you have a mental illness, it's like, that's just so stupid. Like, they can't put that on you. And the fact is, I let them put that on me, as I'm sure, like, all of you guys have let someone put that on you, or if not everyone put that on you. And I honestly believe that was the reason I became so low, because I had let people do horrible things to me, because I just wasn't happy on my own. I was like, the fear of being alone was worth all of their punishment, all of their torture. Like, everything that I went through was worth it. And, you know, I had to get to the bottom of the, like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you punishing me? Why are you hurting me? And I kind of think, like, if they had given me a good enough answer, like, would I have been okay with it? No. Why did I stay in these relationships for such a long time trying to work out why they were hurting me, why they were doing these things to me, when the fact was they were, and they weren't stopping. Finding out why they were doing it just really doesn't matter. And I think I think I was looking for a particular answer. I was looking for the answer that my family had always given me, that you don't deserve it. You don't deserve any better. So subconsciously, I was trying to, prove, I was trying to disprove, but in the process, I was like proving this innate belief of what I thought I deserved. And it's only now that, I am completely alone and I'm focusing on myself and I'm starting to feel a lot better about myself, where I can actually sit there and go, no, I do actually deserve better. And it's a lot easier to do that when there's not that voice, or someone else's voice telling you, you don't deserve any better. No, this is the best that you're ever going to get. And you should thank me for being here, because no one else would be here for you. And maybe no one else will be there for me. I mean, I don't really care at this point, because I just think, you know what? Being alone is not such a big deal. When you're made to just like be alone, you're just dropped on your ass. It's like, it's terrifying, but sometimes it's the best thing that can happen to you, because, you never would have gotten there on your own. And when there's no one in your life, you've got this blank canvas, and you can suddenly start to let things back into your life that are good for you, that you want in your life. You have control back over your life. And I'm taking this time to figure out who I want to be and what I want to do with my life, because how on earth could I expect anyone to love me or, want to be a part of my life if I can't really tell them what they're in for? Like, if I'm constantly searching, and, I'm really excited with what I'm doing with all this, mental health advocacy and my YouTube and my Instagram and my writing, like my book. I really feel like I'm starting to find me. I'm starting to find my path, and I'm making a career out of being me, which is awesome, and it's really cool that so many people appreciate that and really want to be a part of it, and that's incredibly motivating. So I thank you all for that, and I really hope that you guys, do the same. Don't be afraid of being alone, because sometimes when you're forced to face your greatest fear, you kind of realize that it wasn't such a big deal after all. And then suddenly you're freed from that fear, and your life is no longer bound by avoiding that fear. And I think in a way, the more terrified we are of something, the more we think about it, the more we try and avoid it, the more we attract that into our life. So I wish you all the best of luck on your journey, and stay tuned for my next video.